All right, 97.7 Outlaw Radio FM listeners, you already know what time it is, and right here we actually have a legendary producer and hip-hop artist. We have Juice the Witch Docta right here live on the line, man. How are you doing this evening?
I'm excellent, my brother, and yourself?
I'm doing great, man. Best as I can possibly be, man. Just enjoying the last few days of the Canadian summer weather, man. It's tragic. I'm not sure if you've been to Canada, but whenever fall runs around, it's just nonstop rain, and then we get into the white stuff, which isn't fun either.
Yeah, I have family in Ottawa and also in Montreal, Quebec, so I definitely know what you mean.
I gotta say, you can't go wrong with Montreal, man. Such a beautiful city as well, man.
Yes, sir.
But Juice, I know you're a busy individual, man, so I'm going to dive right into this broadcast, man, but I want to take you back to the year 1985, where you actually began your musical journey as an MC and also formed the group called Doing Everything Fresh. I was wondering if you can actually tell our listeners the story behind this group, and of course, how did you actually get connected with the other members?
Well, the other members went to school with me. I was raised in a Catholic school, and that's where I met the other members, and hip-hop was very new. As you know, the first hip-hop songs probably in 1979 where it really got some form of recognition by the Sugar Hill Gang. And as it developed, you started hearing different, Run DMC was a big influence. And it was something new. It was something new for us from the streets. I'm from Flatbush, and I mean, these brothers, we got together and we just formed this group, man, because, something else inspiring from people of our skin color and our culture, and whoever knew that I would even make it this far,
And also, with you saying that you guys met in Catholic school, was any of the Catholic teachers kind of ever against you guys doing hip hop? Because obviously back then, like you mentioned, hip hop was such a new genre of music. Did those teachers ever have actually any issues with you guys actually getting together and writing and performing your music?
In actuality, no. I don't recall any time or date that any teacher would do anything about it. I mean, we were in the schoolyard, we were beatboxing, we were rapping, and there wasn't really no teachers around. We didn't do it inside the classroom or anything, but truthfully, no.
Because the reason why I was asking that, because I do know, as you probably already know, a lot of Catholics, and nothing against them, you know what I mean? I don't want to get any heat, but sometimes back in the day, they might have had some different views on certain things, if that makes sense.
Oh, 100%. Well, hip hop was fairly a new thing, so they probably saw it as garbage and just people rambling off. But look, it's the highest growth genre in the world right now.
And also as well, doing everything fresh later actually transformed into Massive Enterprises. I was wondering if you can actually tell us a bit more about that, and of course, what actually made you guys undergo a name change?
Well, basically what happened is some of the group members, they left, and I started meeting other MCs. When I met the other MCs, it was sort of like a Wu-Tang clan rather than the group itself, So it was different groups within Massive Enterprises at the time, So I just catapulted forward. We got, around that time, I really started looking at production, bringing them into the studio and putting some stuff together. We had smaller studios we went to before we even decided to go to the bigger studios and really expand our sound.
And also as well, in the year 1990, you actually joined the Black Watch movement, where you actually worked alongside the legendary X-Clan. I was wondering if you can actually tell our listeners the story behind this opportunity, and of course, how did you actually land that opportunity to work alongside the clan?
Well, around the Massive Enterprises days, we would go to Washington Square Park, which is a legendary park in the city, in the village in New York City that a lot of these well-known MCs, even up to today, went to. We did battles, we did dancing, we graffiti. I mean, we did everything there. And I met a brother there by the name of Nukeem. He wasn't really an MC, but he was he dressed very cultural. He had the beads, and me myself, I wore a lot of beads myself. So got attracted him to me, and he walked over to me and he asked me, if I had knowledge yourself, and of course I did, So we kicked it a little bit, and he told me, I'm part of this movement called the Black Watch movement, and maybe you should come check it out. And little did you know that the Black Watch movement, the headquarters were exactly not too far from where I lived in Flatbush. So there's Flatbush base. So he brought me to Lumumba Carson, which is Professor X, and it started from there. And then, just followed them to different places, and then they finally got in the office in downtown Brooklyn off of Remsen Street, and the journey began from there.
And I have to ask, man, because obviously, like you've been doing this for so long, and around 1990 was around the same time X-Clan actually dropped To the East Blackwards. I was wondering, what projects did you actually have the opportunity to work with them on?
Well, in actuality, I was just inside the studio. I worked alongside Paradise Gray, which is the architect from X-Clan, and he's the one who actually really got me into working studio equipment. Becoming an engineer, knowing how to master my sounds, putting things together. So did I actually make a project for them? No. Was I there when they were making projects? Yes. Mm-hmm.
And I got to say, even just sitting back, especially it being so early on in your career, because I was only 5 years into your career, being able to see such a conscious, legendary group, even at that time, just work in the studio, you must have learned a lot just by watching as well. Sometimes watching is better than actually working alongside.
100%, and it was the best of both worlds, because not only was it musically inclined, but they were standing for a positive cause. And so for me, being a person from the street, following a group of people that stood for something, that stood for a culture, that stood for rights of a people, it was something big. So it definitely kept my mind straight and narrow rather than going into the other opposite direction. You know what I mean?
And also, as well, before we move off the topic of the X-Clan and you just being able to see what they're doing, what is one of the major things that you actually learned just by sitting there and watching them?
Just the organization, just the cadence, the process of bringing the artist there. Not exactly knowing what it is that you're going to work with them on, and to hear what they had, and just the concept of, okay, let's pull up this record, let's pull up this sound. Let's put it together, just getting the feedback from the artist, just the whole concept of artist development, because anyone can make a beat, but not everybody's going to like the beat, you know what I'm saying? So to make a beat from scratch right there while the artist is there, catering to the artist's sound, that's artist development, that's big. And that's one of the major things that I've learned from that, being able to meet different people and not trying to force the same beat style onto them, but catering and forming this beat just for them. You know what I'm saying?
And also, as well, going ahead in the timeline just a little bit, in the year 1997, you actually produced an underground album called Tales of a Lost Soul. I was wondering if you can actually tell our listeners a story behind this album, and of course, can you tell us a bit more of just being the producer of that album?
Yeah, so here it comes. So coming from X-Clan, I met a brother in X-Clan by the name of the Lyrical Lost Soul, which is who I made this album for. So me and him grew a good bond together, and I actually started bringing him to the studio with me, because by then we had a studio up in Queens called Easy Track Studios, which is ran by one of the producers that actually worked for us at 12 Tribes, DJ E. Earn. So E. Earn had this studio, and we started bringing Lost Soul to the studio. And, it started off with, I got some ideas. He had some rhymes. We put it together. And who'd know that we would come up with like 4 EPs, LPs, song after song. So I was actually the first producer that he had that helped develop his whole concept, his whole style, his whole sound to his music. So with that, and he just took the music, and he was hungry. He took the music, and at the time there was a thing called Home Jam that was playing on Hot 97, and it was basically for up-and-coming artists that were unsigned, and gave them the chance to play the music online. Play the music on the air, and it went from there. We got 2 or 3 songs put on there, and we weren't even signed. The songs were playing up there week after week after week. So I knew we had something special, but, at the same time, it was hard to get into an industry without really knowing the right people to pull you in and to vouch for you, per se.
And I also read as well, just pertaining to this album, that the album unfortunately didn't get released by a label, but as you mentioned, it was actually got radio play on Hot 97. I was wondering if you can actually tell us just a bit more about this radio placement, and of course, was it actually difficult marketing your record to these radio stations in the 90s? Because I do know, obviously, nowadays it's a lot easier to kind of get your music on the radio with all the internet radio stations going around and whatnot, but back then, you really had to go through a lot of corporate individuals to actually really get your music listened to.
Yeah, I mean, at the time, it was really hard because the only way that a person could actually get their music onto a radio was to be signed to a record label, and the record label had the know-how to make the placement there. But like I said, basically, Hot 97, they were having a sort of like a competition or a make it or break it type thing. You know, they advertised it on the radio. They said, hey, get your music heard, submit your music, and if we like it, we'll play it. And it was as simple as that. So Lost Soul, he's so ambitious, you know, he was so on it. He submitted the music, he kept on pushing, and they played it. It hit. They took the bait, and that was history.
And before we move off the topic of this album, I have to ask: did any labels actually give the album any interest? Like, did you guys actually really shop for a deal? And if so, like, what labels did you actually send it to?
Well, back in the days, we would send it to Loud, Ruckus Records. You know, those are the main two that we sent it to. And you know, a lot of people. Yeah, I remember going to Uptown MCA to go see Puff Daddy, and I would sit in the lobby for hours, and he would come out, he'd look at the demo, he goes, okay, I'm going to take a listen to it, come see me next week. I'd come back next week, sit there again, he'd look at me, oh yeah, I didn't get the chance to listen to it, come see me the following week. And you know, it was a hamster wheel after a while. So it's really difficult, you know, because you having thousands of MCs from New York City doing the same thing. So the competition there was, you know, was large, and you'd have to have that special thing, you know, to be noticed and for somebody to just even take you into consideration.
And it definitely sounded like Puff Daddy probably was thinking to himself, this guy isn't going to come back, he's going to go somewhere else. But by the sounds of it, just the way you were speaking, it sounded like he was very surprised that you actually were there exactly 1 week later, man. I think some of these individuals, they don't really understand how hungry you guys really are.
Yeah, no, 100%. We lived this, we breathed it, you know, coming from the heart of New York City, coming from Brooklyn, you know, this is what we did, you know, and you know, I have a lot of friends of mine that actually made it, you know, and again, the deals were scarce, you know, you don't know what type of deal you get, and a lot of the times the artists are not the ones that get signed to the label. Is the production company of the artist that gets signed to the label. So now the artists have to go through their production company to get some type of bread, and so on and so forth. So it was a crazy thing, let me tell you.
And also as well, you are also affiliated with the legendary Universal Zulu Nation. I was wondering if you can actually tell our listeners about how you got connected with that phenomenal organization, and of course, what was it like being a member of that particular chapter?
Well, the way that happened, you know, being part of the Black Watch movement, we did a lot of going out with them, a lot of protests. We did a lot of shows. So we always saw the Zulu Nation, and Black Watch was always affiliated with the Zulu Nation. So it was easy for me to sort of slide in. And my good brother, the late T.C. Islam, who passed away a couple of years ago, he's the one who pulled me in. You know, he pulled me in. I was part of his Hip Step chapter before he passed away, and that's how that started. You know, I was there at the first annual Zulu Nation event and kept on going until I moved to Florida.
And also as well, during your career, you actually had the opportunity to work alongside the Bush Babies. I was wondering, how did you actually get connected with that hip-hop group? And of course, what was it like just being able to work alongside them in the studio?
Well, the Bush Babies, Mr. Man, I went to school with him. So he was in a couple grades underneath me. So that's how I knew. That's how I got connected with the Bush Babies. And I later on got together with the other guys. Was introduced to them and so on and so forth. I was introduced to the likes of Talib Kweli, Mos Def, but this is like the group that hung around them. So it was an up and coming group. So it was fun. I didn't do much as far as production for them. Again, I was still polishing my production skills then, and I don't think my style at the time were a fit for them. So you take the grain of salt with it, and you keep pushing and you keep perfecting your style and your sound.
And also as well, you are actually the co-founder of 12 Tribes of Music alongside your phenomenal colleague, Musa. I was wondering, could you tell our listeners a bit more about that business partnership? And of course, how did you guys actually come together and form this phenomenal company? Because you guys went on to do some amazing things over the years.
Yes, sir. So Musa and myself, we met in our teens. And it's a funny thing. So it now goes back to Massive Enterprises. So Prospect Park in Flatbush is a humongous park, and on the other side of Prospect Park, when you go from Flatbush to the other side of Prospect Park, you end up in Park Slope, and there was a big band show over there. And what I did, I'd bring my dancers, I'd bring the other MCs, and we would practice our routines on this stage. So one day while practicing our routine on the stage, a gentleman was watching us do it. And, we had our radio, dancing, we're practicing the rapping. I had everybody doing their thing. And the gentleman approached us and asked us, if we did production, and he was really intrigued with what we were doing. And that gentleman was Musa Moore. So I ended up making music for Musa. Musa was a hip-hop artist as well, very well known at the time. He had, his partner at the time was DBS, and they had a couple songs put out back in the days. And I'm sure he'll break that stuff down to you and later on in other interviews. But that's how I met Musa, and then we were inseparable. We were inseparable ever since. We formed a partnership some years later, even after I left New York and moved to Florida, and we just maintained it. And then when things really started to move for us is when we really started to really put energy into what it is that we were doing. Because we had all the right elements now. We had the understanding of today's music industry, and we're ready to fly.
And you can also tell just how inseparable you guys are, man, because you created such an amazing business, such a professional business at that in such a short little time, man. I'm super excited to see what you guys do just in the next decade alone, let alone a lifetime, man, because you guys definitely have that chemistry as a business partnership.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And in doing that, we formed a relationship with so many different people around us. Between the people he knows in the industry, between the people I know, and we bring them together. I mean, down to the artists we work with, down to the artists who are signed to us, down to the artists that we work with outside the label. I mean, we form a really good relationship with these people, because these days it's about all of us making it, and I'm sure we all had people in our lives that we grew up with, and these people made it to a point, and then when you expect them to pull you in, they don't, but you can't fault them because, they're who they are and you are who you are, and whether or not you are the type of person to put that hand out to make sure everybody eats and the other person is still trying to eat themselves, you never know another person's situation, so that's why I value who Musa is and the people that surround us right now, because, family is family, and we have to exercise that word family and do it the right way.
And also as well, you actually are also an official member of the Wu Fam. I was wondering if you can actually tell our listeners a bit more about that, and of course, what is it like actually being an official Wu-Tang Clan affiliate?
It's crazy. Let me tell you. I remember, just before I get into that story, I remember back in '95 at a hip hop event, I met this individual who was managing Wu-Tang at the time. He goes by the name of Mook. If you look up Mook, you'll find out some good information about him. So at the time, I was working at INS Studios with Paradise of X-Clan, and I really had the understanding of working the board and doing music production there and getting the sound. So Mook propositioned me, and he said he had a reggae artist that he wanted to push out, coming out of the Wu-Tang affiliates, by the name of the Deemster. So I did 3 songs for him, and he recorded these songs at INS, just to find out months later that the Deemster disappeared and they wasn't going to work with him anymore. The great thing about that is I still got the demos to prove it. So all these songs that I've done in the past, still got them, So I'm not too sure how I could work it to maybe release it or maybe say that, these are from the archives, because a lot of the old stuff that we've done in the past, we're actually looking for ways to release this stuff and calling it the archives, calling it old school boom bap, so they could hear that sound and to know that we've done this, we've been here before. Now, as far as the Wu fam, I met my god bro, Moon, Mr. Full Moon, brother's incredible. Mr. Full Moon, he's related to Mook. How crazy is that? Same person that I met in '95. This brother that I met, I want to say 3.5, 4 years ago. I started working with him because we were filming a documentary of a particular martial artist that I don't want to mention right now because I don't want to give anybody any ideas. And he had an artist that I thought had the perfect voice to go on this track that I made. So we had a meeting. He came out to Flatbush. We sat down and we're kicking it and we're looking at each other and we're like, we know each other from somewhere, because I remember being around the Wu-Tang a lot because I've been invited to the office 1 or 2 times by Mook, to speak about the Deemster. And kicking it with Moon, we found out we knew a lot of people. We had a lot in common. So I invited him to a lot of these events that I was doing, that I was part of, the martial art events. And in doing that, he gave the blessing to let his artist, Ali Star, record this song for this particular martial artist that's also coming out on the Phoenix Volume 1 album, by the way. And we took it from there. So it took about over a year of me working out with him, and he made it official one day. He just said, listen, I see the way you're moving. I see that you're here for the cause. I see that you're all in. They gave me my jacket, and they made me an official Wu Fam member.
And I also, as well, speaking of that amazing album that's actually coming up, I actually read that it's actually coming out winter of 2022, which is where you're going to be releasing the second installment for the Phoenix. For the listener, I was wondering, what can our listeners actually expect from this up-and-coming project? And of course, where can we actually stream the first one today, if it is indeed, already released?
Okay, it's not released as of yet because we were having copyright issues. We were waiting for the permission to come back, and it hasn't come back. So what I've decided to do is recreate a lot of these songs, which is time consuming. So next week, a volume cipher is being released, and volume cipher is about 5 to 7 songs, just to hold out the listeners, let them hear more stuff coming from 12 Tribes with more artists that's out there. And our next single that we're actually going to be releasing in the next few weeks is a song called Can't Test My Gangster, which is something I sent to you, that if you would like to play it. But that song actually features Dylan from Making the Band, Puff Daddy's Making the Band. It also has Light a Fire from the Bush Babies, and it's featuring 2 of our artists, the official Crystal Clear and Lucky Havana, on it. You know, I think it's something that's going to really grab attention once you hear it.
And I got to say as well, I'll definitely look through the email and actually add that into the station's rotation, man, because you actually got me all excited. I haven't even listened to it yet, so with amazing songs like that, I just like adding it to the station and enjoying it for the first time with the listeners at the same time. I don't know, it's my way just kind of get a little bit closer to my radio station as well.
100%.
But also as well, I have to ask, man, because I do know you have done so much, you have such an extensive career within the music industry. I have to ask, man, what is next for yourself, Juice the Witch Doctor? Is there anything we happen to miss during tonight's broadcast? Anything else you do still want to talk about or promote? Well, we still got you here live on the Canadian FM dial this evening.
Yeah, we have so much coming up, you know, and it's to the point, you know, if I'm doing one thing, I don't think I'm doing anything. You know, I have to do 5, 6 things at one time. It's my organized confusion. You know what I mean? We have actually next weekend, Wu-Tang will be performing at the Deadly Martial Arts Survival Convention in Harlem, in New York. They'll be performing 2 songs, and that's the latest thing that's happening. I have again on 8/8 the Phoenix Volume Cypher will be released. On 10/10, we're looking to release Tales of the Lost Soul, which is the unreleased album that we spoke about earlier that made it on Hot 97's Home Jam. And on 11/11, we're actually going to release the Phoenix Volume 1, which is the most anticipated album that, you know, the internet's been waiting for, and I'm excited about it because there's a variety in it. It's not. You'll be surprised. We're bringing back elements, and we're adding elements, and we're making it very musical. You know, what's missing is the music. The music is too generic these days. You know, it's very robotic. There's nothing musical about it. The music doesn't tell a story. It's up to the MC to tell the story. Where it should be a marriage, it should be a union. The music should inspire the MC, and the MC inspire the music, which inspires the listeners to listen to exactly what it is that's going to make the song longevity. That's going to make the song 20 years from now, people are still singing the song. You know, it's hard for me to say that. There's a lot of songs these days that people are not going to remember because it's not, because, you know, the topic itself, you know, it's not really saying anything. Not too many people could relate to what a lot of the music these days are talking about, you know. So you need, and that's what hip hop is missing these days, the storytelling. You know, I could understand that. Yeah, I lived that, you know, so on and so forth. So we look to be part of that movement, to bring that element back and to inspire others to do the same. You know, so we're looking to set the bar high. We're looking to bring in MCs that people have known for years. We're bringing in new MCs. We're bringing in singers. We're bringing in reggae artists. We're bringing in the whole fort. We're ready for war. You know what I mean?
And speaking of that, because I do know how you said you're bringing in a whole bunch of different artists, I just want to touch base on that, because we do have a lot of independent artists that do indeed listen to this radio station, and of course the interviews in the archives as well. So if anybody is listening right now or come across this interview and want to potentially kind of submit their music to kind of join join what you guys are doing, if you don't mind me asking, like what's the process for these artists to submit their stuff and potentially become a partnership with your guys' company?
All they have to do is send their stuff to 12tribesmusic@gmail.com. Music is with a K at the end. 12, the number 1, 2. 12tribesmusic@gmail.com. Send a link. Let us hear what you got. You know, what we usually do first is, if we really like what you're saying and you're definitely a unique individual, we'll probably try to pair you in a song with other artists. You know, because we're that spiritual DJ Khaled doing it right. You know what I'm saying?
And also, Juice, this is the time to interview quickly that I give a chance for the individual that does slide into the radio station airwaves, just a chance to give, like, shout-outs to whomever they want to give shout-outs to, but most of all, your social media handles. That way our listeners can follow you and stay updated on everything you got going on, past, present, and future, if they're not already doing so.
100%. You could always go to 12tribesmusic.com. That has all our social media on there. 12, the number 12, Tribes, TRIBES, music, MUSIK.com. Once you go on there, you'll be able to find everything. All our social media is right there, just a click away.
And I gotta say, first and foremost, Juice, thank you so much, man, for just giving us a bit of your time here this evening and sliding into the 97.7 Outlaw Radio FM dial, man. It definitely was an honor and most definitely a privilege, and hopefully down the line we can make this happen again sometime soon.
Oh, 100%. I would like to throw a couple of shout-outs to my team members. You know, Mansa Musa, holding it down. E. Earn, we've known E. Earn for years. He's always been the studio we went to, and he's still here today, still working with us after 20, 25, 30 years. We're still doing this. Shout out to the Spellcasters. Shout out to the Official Crystal Clear, Lucky Havana, Cone the God, JB the Great, Greed De Niro, J Lyrics, J Vocals, all the people that we've collaborated with, Wu Fam, Mike Hands, Dreddy Kruger, Lost Soul himself, Bush Babies, Lady Miz, anyone else I forgot, please forgive me. But love, we got a future to build. We're going to build pyramids. That's the only thing we build is pyramids. Forget building.
And I gotta say, first and foremost, again, man, thank you so much, and I'm definitely looking forward to speaking with you again soon, man. But for now, definitely have yourself a phenomenal weekend as well there, Juice. Thank you again.
Thank you so much, DJ Marlo. Keep blasting them. Keep doing your thing.
Hey, man, you already know I ain't going to stop until the wheels fall off. And if the wheels fall off, I'm going to get right back up there, screw them things right back on, and keep on going, man. I ain't stopping until my casket drops.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Check the email. Trust me, you're going to like that Can't Test My Gangster. You're the first to play it because it's not going to come out until the Cypher album. So you're the first to play it.
Most definitely. I'll definitely get that email, and I'll definitely get that spinning ASAP.
All right. Let me know when it goes up.
Most definitely, I will let you know as well, man. I'll let you know the exact time slot.
Yes, sir.
I appreciate you, Juice. Thank you so much again, man. Have yourself a wonderful night.
You too. Blessings. Peace, everyone.